Inside soccer's data renaissance. The leverage shift starts now. Here is the signal that separates noise from actionable change. We will map trigger, incentive shift, and downstream impact before the close. That's the annual market size of professional soccer globally. And for decades, teams managed this money using spreadsheets, videotapes, and gut instinct. 3 years ago, that stopped. Today, elite teams deploy machine learning models that track every touch, every pass angle, every recovery run, in real time. We're talking about data systems that didn't exist at scale 5 years ago. And the ripple effect is reshaping how talent moves, how matches are won, and how the sport itself generates value. Here's the concrete change: AI-powered analytics platforms now process game footage from 50 sensors simultaneously. Each sensor captures body position, ball trajectory, player velocity, and fatigue markers. That data streams to cloud backends, typically AWS or Google Cloud, where models trained on 100,000 plus hours of historical game footage predict the next play 0.8 seconds before it happens. Clubs like Liverpool, Manchester City, and Barcelona have already integrated these systems into their coaching pipelines. They're using AI not just to analyze performance, but to scout talent 3 tiers below the professional level. Why does this matter right now? Because it democratizes insight. A decade ago, only the wealthiest 20 clubs had access to premium analytics. The gap between them and mid-tier teams was measured in hundreds of millions of dollars: talent acquisition advantage, coaching precision, injury prevention. Today, open-source models and cloud APIs have collapsed that barrier. A second-division club in Spain can now deploy the same fundamental architecture as Manchester City. The only difference is compute spend and how well they train the models on their own data. But here's where it gets interesting for tech specifically. The infrastructure layer is where the real leverage is. These systems require real-time video ingestion, low-latency GPU processing, distributed cloud infrastructure, and APIs that feed insights back to tablets on the sideline. Every club building this is, in effect, rebuilding the data stack that powers autonomous vehicles, robotics, and financial trading systems. The skill transfer is immediate. Engineers trained on soccer analytics stacks are becoming prime candidates for roles in autonomous systems, medical AI, and supply chain optimization. There's also a second-order effect on the creator and coaching economy. Until recently, professional coaches were a bottleneck. You needed a PhD in sports science and 15 years of field experience to understand advanced analytics. Now, a 22-year-old with a Python background can build a model that identifies injury risk patterns better than a veteran coach. This is already spawning a creator class. YouTube channels, coaching apps, and indie analytics firms are packaging these insights for semi-professional and amateur leagues. In India specifically, this is significant. Cricket analytics platforms like Cricketips and iGambit have proven there's appetite for data-driven insights in sports. The same pattern is emerging in Indian football academies and the Indian Super League. Now, the counterpoint: most of this data advantage evaporates once every team has the same tools. Right now, in 2026, competitive advantage still exists for teams that can attract better machine learning engineers and invest in proprietary datasets. But within 18 months, as these systems commoditize and open-source models improve, the differentiation shifts to execution and organizational culture. Teams that move slower will be left behind. And here's the hard truth: a team with average coaching but optimized analytics will beat a team with elite coaching and no data integration. What changes next? Watch for consolidation in the analytics provider space. Firms like StatsBomb, Wiskout, and Instat are racing to integrate generative AI into their platforms. They're also starting to offer predictive modeling as a service. Clubs won't build these systems anymore, they'll subscribe to them. This is infrastructure moving upstream, just like how AWS killed the on-premise data center business. There's also regulatory pressure building. Leagues are now asking, does real-time AI coaching cross an ethical line? The Premier League has already restricted certain types of real-time feedback during matches. That regulation will shape which companies win this market and which get squeezed out. Here's what matters for you: if you work in cloud infrastructure, AI operations, or data engineering, this is a visible upstream signal that enterprise demand for real-time ML is accelerating. If you're building a sports tech product, the playbook is now clear: partner with a club, prove you can improve performance by 3 to 5%, then scale to the league. And if you're invested in companies like AWS, Google Cloud, or data infrastructure startups, soccer analytics is one of dozens of domains driving GPU and bandwidth demand higher. This is worth paying attention to because it shows how AI adoption happens in practice, not through hype, but through departments that can measure ROI instantly. In soccer, you can measure success in goals, wins, and league position. That clarity is pulling investment and talent into this space faster than almost any other domain. The next signal to watch is whether this analytical infrastructure eventually feeds back into grassroots leagues and academy systems, because that's where the real scale and the real talent discovery opportunity lies. The data renaissance in soccer is real, it's moving fast, and it's reshaping how an entire sport thinks about talent, strategy, and value. Watch what happens over the next 90 days. That's professional soccer's annual market. Until 3 years ago, teams managed it with spreadsheets. AI models track every touch, every pass, every recovery run in real time. Elite clubs like Manchester City deploy systems that predict the next play 0.8 seconds before it happens. But here's the shift that matters: this technology just became cheap enough for second division clubs to deploy too. The competitive advantage that used to live in the wealthiest 20 teams just evaporated. What emerges instead is a new skill gap: teams that can hire machine learning engineers and integrate analytics into coaching culture will win.